I'm Seamless, and after this video, I'm going to record a video that's a review of the KeyStep Pro from Arturia. This is the last day I have with this stuff, and I'm just going to get a whole bunch of stuff out of the way, because I basically have, did you see the setup going on? I've been trying a lot of things to get a hard wearable setup to work, so that I could keep doing more things better and faster. And so right now I have everything turned on, but nothing is connected to anything. And I want to show off a lot of things about how the KeyStep can connect to stuff. As you can see, it has many connections. And this is going to be a video of me basically trying to plug in and use all of them so I can shut them all off. It's like what they do. I have this cable plugged in to so I can test how far away the modular is, for example. And that kind of stuff. So this isn't the camera angle I'm going to be using the whole time. I'm going to be pausing the video by tapping a little keyboard I have over there because I can do that. It's basically real-time editing for me, which is as close to editing as I want to get, honestly. I'm hoping my voice works. I tried to level this up to be okay, but I'm also in a room that isn't usually used for this. So we'll see how well we go. But I'm in a good form about this because this whole thing is brought to you by The Zounds. They are an online music retail catalog people kind of place that has pretty much everything you want to know and have about like any kind of musical endeavor, be it bands, recording, any kind of production nonsense, and synthesizers and things, keyboards and controllers and cables and stuff like that. I honestly have used them before, even before they contacted me about giving me these hardwares to mess with. They're not mine. I'm going to send them back. That's why there's the deadline. But that's pretty much the deal. They send me stuff. I make videos. It's pretty great. And so their praises shall be sung in the videos that their things are contained in. Not a deal with Arturia. Our deal with the Zounds. Okay. So step up first is that I'm going to plug in like the main stuff that I want to trigger. So over here we have a Matrix Brute. I'm going to use him, be a cool bass guy. This is the Micro Freak, which I'm going to use to be a kind of expressive digital four voice pad thing. And then the Drum Brute, which I'm going to use for drums. And then this modular nonsense, which exists because one of the things the Arturia can do is that it has 4 sets of CV outs that aren't just pitch and gate, but also a separate dedicated velocity / modulation output, like this thing here. And I'm going to use all of them. So that's why this, mostly why the modulars are out here, is to have that kind of level of stuff to mess around with. Because I really want to get like the maximum out of these things as much as I can. Like this thing even has CV outs, but I'm not really gonna mess around with that because I have other plans for them. Anywho, step 1 is pretty just kind of big. Get some MIDI cables and plug in the individual elements. And let's pretty much get to that. But because the KeyStep has a MIDI in and 2 outs. Sometimes a MIDI device will have out and a through, which is not quite the same, but it depends on like for example, this guy has a MIDI out and a through. No, it's the Matrix Brute that has the through. The through is just straight up dummy bypass, but like a device that has an input and an output can set the out to be a through if it's gonna do that, or it can set to only be sending out the things it's gonna send out. But this straight up has 2 outputs, 2 different ports that I'm not totally sure, but they might individually have their own 16 channels. I don't think it goes that far, but it might. This thing really cares about sequence life. Like this as a piece of hardware speaks to me because it's set up in a way that makes sense to someone who's mostly used to digital production, which is a freaking feat. Like when it comes to hardware, because that's like the biggest sort of penetration problem outside of the price is that it's designed in a way that is just fundamentally hard to use in comparison to the way the digital stuff works. But this is set up with a logic and a kind of availability of options that is sort of the thing that a producer who's modern expects. All right, so let's grab us cables. I'm gonna pause the video. And we're back. Got a cable. Going to MIDI out 1. Boop. And all my cables are all strange lengths. And this MIDI cable happens to be 1 billion miles long, which is good because it's going to go all the way around to the back to where the Matrix Brute is. Way over there. All right. And I've already got the Matrix Brute plugged in. And now I've plugged it into MIDI 1, which means that one of these tracks should actually work out. So I'm actually, I'm in a project right here, so I'm going to go to project and go to a new one. Oh, there it is. So, all right. Now, I don't actually want this guy to be the channel that's triggered by number 1, and that's because I want to be able to trigger the drum track with number 1 here. And the way that we're going to do that is that we're going to set this one's MIDI input to be the drums, and we're going to set this one's to be the channel 1. So what's handy about the drum root is that it's already set to accept a MIDI input on channel 10. So all I gotta do is set this by going to Shift Utility, which is Projects, go to MIDI channels, track, drum output. Actually, I guess if I hit drum, it automatically does that. Yeah, it's not triggering the matrix brew anymore. So I didn't need to do any of that. Never mind. Boop. So if I go to sequence mode, it'll play the matrix brew on channel 1, but on drum mode, it automatically puts it into the cool drum sequencer mode that will trigger the matrix brew when I plug it into from the MIDI through from, or rather, drum brute from the matrix brute. Brutes and drums and matrices and freaks, micros. Okay, doing that. Okay, so I've plugged in the drum brute via the MIDI through from the back of the matrix brute, and now when I hit the drum channel, you can see that it is triggered. We can't hear it because I haven't plugged in anything else yet, including the audio and whatnot. But on top of that, I've also changed the track number output of MIDI 2 here, or rather track 2, to match what was the regular MIDI track output of number 1, which was not channel 1, but channel 3. I appear to have changed this thing's internal MIDI to be channel 3, which that's how you generally do this sort of thing. You have your sort of main control deal, and then it sends out different channel information, and then you set these things to be individual different channels, not unlike walkie-talkies and whatnot. Well, in the sense that you would want them to set to be the same channel, because, you know, channels are channels, but in this case, you want them to be individually notable. I've never actually used walkie-talkies. So, point is, now when I play 2, it plays that. Play number 1 on the drum channel. It plays that. So now we gotta plug this dude in, which will be in the MIDI out 2, just because I can. And it'll be whatever output on number 3 is here, which let's see what that is. Which you can do by going to, well, actually I'm already here. I went to track output. So number 3, what are you? 2. Well, I already set this thing to be track 2. And then after that, we'll set the CVs for the last one, because that's how that works. You could set, there's 4 different CVs, and you can set them to be all across different channels or all on one channel. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it all on one channel. But first, I'm going to find another MIDI cable. That took a long time trying to find that one, but I'm going to find it and plug them into this one. BRB. All right, so I have it plugged in with the MIDI, but I can't tell if it worked or not because I don't have it plugged in with the audio. So we're going to find out and by plugging in the stuff in the audio before I tackle the modular junk. So I'm going to plug in Mr. Drum Brute here, who he has individual outputs for the individual drums. But I don't want all the individual ones to take up all my ports. So I only have 16 ports. Yeah, but like, you know, there's a lot of these. So I only needed the few main dudes, and then I'm going to put everything else out the main out. It has a main out. So I'm just going to get a cable and put them in the main out. Didn't need to pause that one because I just have them laying around. Has many outputs, like straight up 2 different kinds of headphone outputs. Like there's a 3.5mm one and a 1/4 inch in there. Like it's there to help you. Because what's fun about audio interfaces is that when they come with headphone ports, it's basically a different set of outputs. And sometimes the inputs will let you configure them and how they work out, like my RME interface does. It's actually super hard to see, but there's cables that are already plugged in here, and these are the matrix brute, which is plugged into ADAT 1 and 2, which is going into these 2 boxes that are getting, like, there's so many cables in the way of the signal, but it's going in there, and it's all plugged in through TRS cables, which are like black magic of signal processing. Because, like, it's not actually processing, I guess, because it's analog. But point is, this is going to go not into one of these, because I want these to be stereo pairs. So you're coming into the end. Yeah. So ADAT 8 is now our dude there. So let's hit the FL. Oh my god, it's freaking XSplit. And it's freaking this. And it's freaking, I mean, I do need that to still be there. But, okay. So, here's our 1, 2. There's our matrix brute. Come in here. Doot. What did I say it was? 8 at 8. Nothing. Yeah, that was 8 at 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's where that should be. Because otherwise, this would be 8 at 9, 10. So that means that's definitely 8 at 8. So, oh well, you know, I bet you I know why. Well, actually, no. This should be pretty loud. This thing has and this mic even hear me. Yeah. Let's move it a bit. I'm sure that sounded great. This device, the Micro Freak, has a tendency to be kind of quiet. And fortunately, there's just a setting straight up in the thing called preset volume, which makes it a little louder, but capture sometimes difficult. Okay, troubleshooting. BRB. All right, so good news is it was a bad cable, and also I was accidentally forgetting that I plugged in the drum brute and not the Micro Freak at all. Anyway, here's the drum brute, rather. Yeah, it's plugged in. Coming in on ADAT 8. So that's the whole thing so far. It's like running in all at once, but I am going to plug in some of the extra outputs on that one. And then I also got this guy working, which he is now tried and tied to number 3 here. And I have them nicely leveled to be loud and put it into the thing at such a way, like they're pretty much at all their maximum levels right now, including the Matrix Brute, which, as you can tell, just by doing that, it's a lot louder than the other guys. And that's just generally true about a lot of analog hardware. It runs hot, and I'm used to that about it. But like this digital dude, for example, like usually takes a lot of work to plug up and make loud enough to the point where a lot of times noise ends up being the case. But like nobody cares. It's hardware. It's awesome. Anyway, what's coming up next is I'm going to now plug in individually all of these guys into their own little ADATs, and then we're going to mix up a drum loop so that we can begin having like a little project to work on. And then once I do that, I'll start plugging in the modular stuff. We'll build the individual voices with that. That'll be fun. Okay. All right, so I got these cables, and what I'm going to do with them is I'm going to plug in... Oop, I need one more. I'm going to plug in 4 direct channels from the drum brute into the ADAT inputs so that I can use them to mix directly and separately from the main mix, which will have every other instrument in them. When you plug them out of the main outputs like this, the back ports are back here, and they are where these are labeled. So like this one has kick 1 on top, and it means it's the farthest one in back. Pretty great because you want to like trying to feel which ones are these. It just makes it's another touch of Arturia being really good at hardware design. Anyway, what I like to take out of this is first and foremost kick 2, which has the actual sort of cleaner bass transients, and as a separate thing, that's a powerful thing to have because then you can do whatever nastiness you want on top as long as you come back with a clean thing at the bottom. And then after that, I also want to take the rim sound, yeah. And the reason for that, I hope the rim's one's on the one on top, is because that has a kind of clicky transient that I actually like better to make a kick sound than I do the actual clicky kick, which is kick 1, in its attempt to do that. And like I say, this thing's attempt, this thing is obviously, it's modeling old ass stuff. It's modeling old drum hardware that it was the way it was, and a lot of what they did was cool and all, but this is the future, and this is mostly just being like the coolest application of what would have been something if this was around back then. Which, like, when you're a period piece and stuff, is pretty great to have on hand. After that, there's the snare. And the clap. And I guess if I get it wrong, it doesn't matter, because I'm taking them both. Well, I'll find out when the kick doesn't work. Yeah. So. Oops. Yep. Kick is gone. So that means that's the one I wanted. Alright, so now with that, what'll happen is that when I sequence a beat on the key step, that'll go into ADAT. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I'll enable them, and then we will look at the key step and just draw a sequence out of it. And we'll look at some of the cool things that the key step sequencer can do. Alright. So now, we're going to look at the key step, which we'll do when I get the camera in position, which I should have done before I unpaused. Yeah, like that. Alright. So the way that the sequencer works when it's in drum mode, because normally the rest of the sequencers, like these tracks, did I leave autofocus on? I guess I did. I probably should leave it on. But these tracks have a sequencer in ARP mode, and ARP mode will hold a chord point, like when you have hold the mode on, and it'll sequence certain aspects of it, and the sequence becomes sort of like which part of the ARP is what, kind of like the matrix brute. But in sequencer mode, it's just what it sounds like. You just write sequences and it gets saved, and it's all hunky-dory. And then over here we have drum sequencer mode, which is very specific because what it means is that all of these MIDI notes that translate to being a specific drum are now also tracks. They are their own MIDI track. And they have a whole bunch of drum gates out here that I'm actually not going to use. I said I wanted to use all the outputs, but like I don't have enough stuff to use that for. And like even with honestly trying, like I don't have enough cables to plug what I do have all the way in. Point is though, is what you could do, you grab a thing and then you do your sequence. Oh yeah, 120, let's stick with that. Let's slow that down. Yes. BPM. Hello. This is me forgetting how to freaking. Oh, it's just the main deal. Derp. It's its own whole knob, but yeah, I like the. I'm actually feeling a good 110 vibe these days. Here's this guy. That's sort of what I meant by it being a decent, like, secondary layer. I'm gonna turn it the hell down though, because you don't want your secondary layer to be bigger and louder than your main kick. Yeah, cool. And then we pick next guy. And now, what's also fun about the fact that these are all different tracks is that there is a limit to how many given like notes you can have per pattern, and it's 196, I think, and it's a large number. It sounds like until you go to like a hi-hat or something, right? And you think, cool. Now, there's a whole bunch of fun ways to copy and paste bits of patterns into other bits of patterns, because this is up here was where you determine how long the given pattern is. So right now it's 1 bar, but like I said, to be 64 individual steps. And if you imagine that you have like an expressive pattern of drums that is over 4 bars, you want to have a whole bunch of stuff going on. It might just be this the whole time. And what this lets you do is if you go into poly mode, which you hit shift, and then now the blue layer is the stuff activated, and one of them is poly. And what this lets you do is you get to set the last step and have it not be the actual, like it could be a different length than the other tracks. So I can set the last step to be this 4th one. And like now it'll loop essentially. So I can make that 64 bar length pattern, but not actually use 64 notes because the other track is not that long. And it doesn't matter that it's looping and playing them a bunch of times, there's still only 4 notes. So that's a way that you get to, like, you could save space in your sequences, which is the kind of thing you have to do when you're dealing with hardware. Yeah, so that's one of the things you get to do, along with changing per, you hold the thing, move the thing for all the individual stuff. But when you're direct outing the drums like this, the velocity doesn't actually do anything. But when we heard the hats just then, that was coming out of the main mix, which is going, back into 8/7, because hats don't have its own output. It has the level of the mix output. Yeah, the drum beat reacts strangely to certain inputs, but honestly, the stuff I'm going to do with it doesn't really need it to do more than what it does. It has inside itself like sequences and accents, and you can get accents to be things in here too, but honestly, that's just not a super important thing for what I want to do today. All right, so that's it for the drum bit. So now let's like plug it into the rest of this. Yeah. And we're back to this angle. And we get to watch me plug in a crap ton of these cables into their individual bits. So these bits that are laid out are going to be the beginnings of what are going to be these individual 4 voices that are going to come out of the CV outputs. There's 4 envelopes in here, 4 envelopes in here. We're going to use them to be volume envelopes and filter envelopes. And then there's also oscillators here and oscillators here that are going to accept the pitch controls. And then I'm going to plug all that junk into some extra stuff that's up here. Did you see that in other shots? You might have. But point is this begins with getting this connected to here. And let me tell you something, pretty much a lot about the core aspect of how everything is laid out in this room was made so that I could connect this to that, and this to that, and all of this to that, and all of this to what's going on in the other room, which you can't even see. It was a lot, okay? I'm learning about how to do things with a lot of stuff. I'm used to doing stuff with not a lot of stuff. It's actually kind of the deal. But honestly, I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I'm grateful every day that the sounds allow me to do this. I say in full seriousness. Okay. So voice number 1 here, this was pitch that I just put into here, and actually I don't need to do that. I'm going to put him into the actual guy. Modular oscillators have basically, it's kind of like a plugin that has all of their parameters broken out into individual access points. So things like setting its pitch is something that you have to actually do manually, not just with the knob, but also with the control of things that are going to control it, like this. This is essentially like a very direct form of MIDI, it's more analog than it. And the result is that we have to be this like molecular about it. Worse even than what it's like to work inside Patcher. So there's this is 2 oscillators, 2 different oscillators here, and then this one module represents 2 different oscillators, and like it actually comes together as one, but I'm not going to use it as one. I'm just going to take its oscillators and run. I just kept going back to get one of these. I'm just going to have a pile of the red dudes nearby. Forgetting where the camera is. There you are. Yeah. Okay. So that was pitch voice 2. So here's pitch voice 3. Like, these are the longest cables I have. And I mean, okay, so the very first time I ever laid my hands on actual analog, like, modular hardware was when Clayton from Cell Dwellers, Fames, allowed me at his house when I was signed to Fixed. And I was astounded, not just like the spaceship-esque like way that the room was created and designed, but also the way that like he had these cables that were like super duper long. And I thought, well, of course he's got these super duper long cables because his synths connect across this room, like a room. And so I didn't question it necessarily, but like when I'm planning on doing my own thing, I was not planning on having this kind of distance to span, because if I'm being honest, oh my god, I just created a disaster for myself. if I'm being honest, I'm underutilizing the Matrix Brute due to its abilities to output straight to CV certain fun parameters. I'm literally just making a cable pile on the floor, but I just can't like logistically interact with it like that. And so now I know like what I got to plan for when I get future stuff, and it will be better and cooler. Anyway, so now we have the 4 pitches in there, and we'll have to tune them. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play a note on this and hold them, and just kind of wee until they get to where I want them. And I'll do that off camera. But first up, I'm going to plug in the gates. So the gate in ZV land is what it understands to be when like the voice begins. You hit a note, and that's the gate. You're opening the gate when you play a note, and you're closing the gate when you do it. Like that word is being used pretty literally. And I have these mults out here, these big strips of a whole bunch of inputs that don't seem to go anywhere or do anything or have any kind of labels. Their job is to take an input and then put it out the other 3 ports. That's essentially how you plug one cable into more than one thing without using a specialized cable called a stack cable that straight up has like a plug through structure type. And I could use those, but I only have so many because they're like $7 a pop. Which, like, maybe that doesn't sound expensive, but look how many of these cables I have. Do some math. Because we're not done yet. Yep, so those are going there, and then this gate. So these gates are gonna pop up and control the this block of, I mean, both of these envelope generators, but they'll be controlled. But like, I have to plug them into cables that can reach them, and actually reach all the rest of the stuff. So that's what that's for. Because then once I get up into this modular, it's close enough to the other stuff that well, this cable's bent up. Wow. Close enough to the other guy that I don't have to worry so much about like my epic cables length. I don't have so many epic cables, but I do have a lot of other ones. As you might imagine, they are more expensive when they are longer. Okay, it's gnarly as hell looking, but that's fine. Okay, so that's... Yep, and then the last group is going to be 4 more of those cables. Do I even have... I don't, and I want to see how far away this regular cable is. I might have to shift. Oh, that's something. That's stupid. Okay. How stupid is that? Even worse. Neat. Well, I guess it'll be less stupid the further in I go. So, alright, I'm gonna have to convert some of these other dudes. So let's get 2 more of these. Let's get the one I can with the reds I got. Alright, so... Which gate am I on now? That was all the gates. I did all the gates. Gate. Neat. So that means we're doing the velocity mod output now. So this is that power strip thing, this like strippy recording deal. I love mod strips like that are touch sensitive, and like I also dig how touch sensitive the micro freak is, because I like tapping things quickly, and like you can do that like kind of deal, and like you kind of pluck yourself. It's sort of doot. I don't know what that means. It's a word that meant great in my head. Yeah, alright. I'll have to grab and graph these. Alright, number 2. I'm sure I had a lot to it, now I don't know about it, and I'm just plugging in cables. Alright, so now this actually should reach, okay, to the one that's free. Underestimated how long it is. Here's one of those specialized stack cables I was talking about. Show the thing, damn you. Yeah. So you like can plug a cable into it. And like you might imagine that, oh, can you just do what you just did there and just like stack it up into the sky? Like, yeah, you totally can. There's basically nothing math-wise to say you can't do that. The only danger is that you are able to then drive a lot more energy into something than it might actually have like been fine with. That was the warning that Clayton gave me. And I take that kind of crap seriously because this stuff is like, it's pretty basic electrical engineering, and like a lot of things that are basic electrical engineering, it can shock you. And it's not necessarily janky, but this is like niches on niche we're looking at. So QA is I mean, good. It's just, I mean, this is just this is a case I bought with stuff I put in. It's not even about it being good or bad. It's about me not killing myself. Me not being an idiot about it. Well, I hope I don't need any more of those longer guys, because I have used every single one of them right now. And I'm using another one of those stack cables to reach this last input point, and it might not even do that. Nope, it won't. Where is... The black one is a little bit longer. It came in a pack of multicolored ones, and the blue ones are just a little bit short. And like these red ones are also the color they color because they're determined to be noted that they are this size. I have other red ones, obviously, and even the red ones are kind of long, but like you can tell that by feeling them, they're kind of like a wire type and a difference. Like, here's another red one. Like, how well does it show up in the camera? Like, it's shinier and weirder looking. Like, it doesn't even look like the same color red. Wow, it's really not the same color red when you can see it all together like that. But point is, that's color coding on size is one of the better ideas that I should probably stick to and pick one. But like, much like color coding your freaking wardrobe, it kind of costs money because then you just gotta buy a bunch of stuff. Okay. So now I have triggered all the triggers, and what we're going to do with the key step is I'm going to select channel 4, and I'm going to set all the CVs to work for it by hitting shift, and over here is where the CV routing is. And you just tell it to be on all 4 cylinders there. And it should be outputting into these 4 dudes. Oh, I didn't plug in anything, so there's no way for me to know. So next up is that I'm going to put gates to gates and levels to levels to match the oscillators, and put the oscillators through a filter, into a mixer, and then into a reverb, and then into a stereo input that we can then hear in FL. And that's after I've also tuned all the individual oscillators and set up the individual and the video helps. So I'm gonna go do that, and then when we come back, we will see what that's like. Okay, so I put in all the envelopes for the volume outputs, but I wanted to do one whole voice once, and then I'll do the other 3 off camera. So I wanted to show it. And even if I thought it was a good idea to waste that much time showing all 4 voices, this camera is attached to the thing that box of modular stuff is on, which means every time I touch it, this is gonna wobble like a lot. So only gonna mess around with that limitedly while camera is on. So step 1, identify whatever oscillator is going to be whatever thing we're doing. So right now I have both generators of envelopes hooked up to the correct numbers of oscillators. So 1 through 4, 1 through 4. And, well, that was a sound. Thanks, lungs. And then what that's going to be is they're going to go, each of them is going to get their own filter and their own volume amplifier to be modulated in a lot of ways. It'll be gate modulated, plucked wise, and then also that separate velocity modulation input, which is that secondary thingy, or rather, yeah, that second port. Because the gate's actually the 3rd port in the order of the visual, but it's in the middle. The modulation port will be the thing that controls the thing that I can change up and down over time. Really cool. So let's get some cable and do that. So pick an oscillator. This guy, he'll be our first voice. And so he's going to go into a filter. Might as well use this bread guy. And I guess because there's some down here, like I wasn't planning on using these because I thought they were somewhere else, but they're here. Saw wave, why not? Put it in the on the filter. Just there. This dude is just on a keyboard stand, which is like super convenient, but I think it's, did you see how much? Anyway, so now he's going in the filter, and then that filter is going to go out to that volume mixer, and that volume mixer is going to go eventually into this reverb dealy, which has 2 outputs that are going to go into the inputs, which are on the bottom side of this thing, if you remember the layout. So similarly longer cables that aren't as long as the red guys, but still pretty long. I'm going to grab the low pass output, because I'm doing real basic saw plucks on these just to demonstrate I can build an instrument out of that using something like the key step. Look at that wobble. Yep. All right. Input 1. So now the whole mixed together is what's going to go out. So I'm going to grab the out there and then put them into the reverb. Doesn't need to be a super long one for that. I hope I can bring captured okay when I look away like that. So when you're dealing with volume and modulars, the word to keep a track of is VCA, which stands for voltage controlled amplifier. And this little device here is 6 of them in a row. And by default, all 5 of them come out the 6th, but you can have them be just 6 independent dudes. Right now, we're doing it for the mix job, and it helps like for single input objects like the reverb. Less wobble, but still pretty wobbly. Cool. And then those two are going to go out. How long do those got to be? Pretty freaking long. Do I have any more of those white ones? That looks long enough. I have these fuzzy braided ones that look cool. But yeah, that's about it. Are you going to focus? Kinda. Focus more on that. Move, Mike. Get out the way. Get out the way, Mike. Nope, not going to reach at all. Cables have to be angled. And the answer is no, I don't have any more white ones. So these longer length ones it is. Alright, I'm going to grab some of these 1/4-inch adapters, which are going into the patch bay, which are going into the snake, which is going into the ADAT inputs, which is going into my audio interface, and damn it, it is not close enough. So you know something? I'm gonna straight up move the module. I can do that because I can pause the camera and take as long as I need to. BRB. I believe we're on, and yeah, now it can reach. Reach. Cool. Do the other one. Yep. Alright. So I'm plugging this into ADAT 9 and 10 as a stereo pair. And the particular ADAT devices I'm using are of a kind of a bunch of preamps that, you know, do the thing where the first 2 are like kind of special cool ones, and the rest of them are just kind of meh. And for the most part, if you're gaining your inputs right, it doesn't really matter, but it lets you do things like record guitars correctly and that kind of thing. We're not really doing any of that, so whatever. But that's why I prepared them, though, to be the stereo inputs for the actual thing. So if I play a thing, it should trigger a deal. It probably is. Let's see what FL has to say about that. Wow. Okay, so that's happening, but the output's not happening because the input's not happening. Because you're not on? Level solid. Correct. Gate 1. Activate. Active. Is definitely on up there. But you aren't for some reason. Yeah, see, if I play enough notes at once, it'll trigger the whole of them. Except it's not triggering number 1. That's triggering number 3 for some reason. Yeah, because it's round robining it, isn't it? Yep. Let me make sure my CVs are all routed. What? I'm pretty sure that switched the camera. I'm doing like matrix maneuvers around my microphone to make sure I can like actually see the thing. Nope, it didn't at all. Come on, do it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, alright. So I'm trying to make sure like because when I hit this dude, all the proper LEDs are lighting up except this one. Why that? Why so? Oh, because you're in number 3 for some reason. But okay, number 1 is being triggered by this. And you're coming out into, you just might not work. All right, well, I can check by, yeah, some of these cables are. There it is, alrighty. Well, we heard it, it finally happened. Now let me check the levels to make sure that wasn't devastating. Well, I guess it was devastating. Sorry about that. Levels check away. All right, much better. Still saying it's clipping, so we're gonna turn it down a little bit. I have to do the clip. Actually, I probably could turn it down at one of the generation sources, like the filter. So one of the things you want to have about it is that along with figuring this whole experience, which you take a while, that's kind of weird. Mm-hmm. Ah, the sustain was all the way down. What did I do? I changed the attack, but what? Okay, so it's still. Oh, I changed the wrong one. Okay, you know what? Sustain up, all you. Attack down, all you. Decay, like reasonable range, and release kind of low. There we go. Thank you. Nice. So now I'm going to use this other envelope. So this guy up here is controlling our volume, and the secondary one is going to be the one that plucks the pluck. And I'm going to put that guy into the overall FM. How do I want to do that? Yeah. It's going to go into the FM2 input of the whatever filters I'm using to have that. One way or another, a lot of these filters, heck, the dual filter I'm going to use up there for most of this has 3 different modulation inputs per filter, and that generally true for filters in analog land. I hope you can hear me talk. I was talking to the camera like it was the microphone. Good God. Anyway, I'm putting in the controller thing, which means more cables. I hope I have enough cables for this. I think I might have just enough cables for this. Okay, so envelope uno here. Take him. And CV2. Benefit of CV2 is that it can go polar up and down, and also has just a range control. And the first one also, like CV1s tend to also have range control, but less of a control in the range control. So let's do positive and turn it down a little bit. Now, Plucker dude up here has sustain on, and I don't want that because sustain is what the volume is for. This one, I just want to fall. But not that long. I mean, a lot longer. Nice. And that's one whole voice of one of those dudes, and it goes into the reverb, which then, like, has reverb, which I'm not doing anything with yet, but I am now. This device is pretty sweet. Once I get it dialed in and the modulator, whatever, I might do some junk with it, like with the actual voices. But this is really be a basic, pretty like saw pad deal when I'm done, and I'm gonna do that now with the other 3 voices. Oh yeah, and then I get to tune it. I guess I should do how that's gonna work now. When I mean, really, what it is I'm just gonna play the note that's gonna be on the MIDI, and then play it with the other thing, and just go until it matches. Rip everybody. Yep, other 3 voices, here I come. Alright, so I have all the voices set up. And now I'm going to write a pattern with it with the key step. All right, let's pattern it up. So right now we're controlling the modular stuff. I've used almost all my cables on it, and we're done basically nothing that's actually great about modular processing. Like, I basically just made a 4-voice synthesizer. Like, what to do? That's mostly what things like these are designed to do. And that's mostly actually what this thing does. So I haven't done anything all that incredibly impressive, but mostly just shows you how you can then use that, you know, to then control the voices from within here. So here's how I would want to go about it. It's hard to pick exactly which voice will go on at what moment. So what I'll do is I'm just going to write each voice independently throughout this whole like 64 length pattern, and just kind of let it be a groove that happens. And I'm just going to let quantize save me. Yeah. All right. You know what? Sure. Oops. So that was a whole lot of wrong notes going on there. And we can just straight up edit those going in. So let's do that actually. So coming up first, oh, go back. I needed you. There we go. Let's get your chord on. Let's make sure you're all. Might as well, right? Doot, 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 doot. And then what? What was the next note here? Oh yeah, down. So A. You just go away. And this is also where like how you hold down the note and you can adjust here to get these different velocities, and I'll do that in a second too, just because. And what are you? It's interesting the different velocities were different. But so I could be like low, 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 low. Just kind of grow over time a bit, and then the next bit can be kind of high. And then we can start low again. Kind of grow up again. They split up a high every once in a while and come back down low strangely, then get back up again a high. Really kind of freak out with it at the end there. Yeah, I'm going to turn on follow. Is it that does? Yes. Turn on overdub, which I'm hoping means we'll add on the third voice when I play the high bit. Which, let's see, it's da, so that's going to be you, then you, and what, you? Ooh, that's funny, and then, I wonder if I just want to play an octave on you. 100% about this chord. But yeah. Oops, get back note. Yep, so a third, did that actually overdub it? It did. Yay. So let's just do that. Might as well go full normal on it, right? And what's that last note? You. What does that make you? Are you normal? You're not normal. You're the tritone, so you're going to get the A. But maybe I'll give you a 7, which is the E. Isn't that interesting? See if that worked. I accidentally held down these guys. These are touch. You can't. I don't know how you can even see them. I forget that they're half the time because they blend in so well. But these are touch capacitive like step loopers that pause the whole generate thing like based on like how fast they are. Yeah, let's get that last note in there. Back to bit 1. Overdub back. Let's just top it off. Yep. Yeah. What did I choose for that? Was it also A? No, it was E again. And then when I do stuff like set up sidechaining and whatnot inside FL, it's not really sweet. So that's setting up that guy. Now we're going to set up using this dude with the last channel, which... Yep. And over here is the matrix brute. And that's actually pretty much it. Like setup wise, we're done. Like the audio is already running in here. The audio of the matrix brute's already run up too. Like all the inputs are set up, the connections are made, and now it's just about writing up a sequence like you just saw with that guy. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use the review for this guy and the review for this guy to make those two other guys. Like I'll use that like as what I could do for those videos to do the reviews. I like it, you know, I like doing reviews that are practical. Like this video could have been a review for this thing, but it's mostly just like a demonstration of what it's like to have to actually set this stuff up and kind of live with it. Anyway, if you have any questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And as usual, have a nice day.